Hello, this is Craig Lane with a short video blog. Well, maybe not too short. You watch my videos, you kind of see it. I can go off on a bunch of tangents, but this is Craig Lane with Health Alchemy. We're doing a video blog today. I had some realizations yesterday, and part of what comes out of realization is what you just call it, investigating something that's going on internally that was really bothering me, and detective work, and then report from such. So I just titled a blog that went out to my 21-day cleanse. We do a seasonal cleanse with my office, and we're doing a kidney cleanse, so all the water filtering organs, kidney, bladder, and everything that supports that. So you end up doing intestines, liver, and kidney, bladder all together because you got to get it in through the mouth and then through the oral cavity, but it's going to end up in the digestive system in any cleanse you're doing. So any cleanse by default involves the gut. So I had sort of an awful day the last few days, and it's been really, many of us can relate. So I titled my Cravings cleansing in the cold weather, and the voluntary and the involuntary and duality is kind of like all the things that came up. So in my insights yesterday, feeling rotten, relationship breakup, and yeah, it was, and plus the cleansing. So what ended up happening is I woke up in the morning, and all of us can probably relate when we felt jilted or rejected, that it's hard to sleep and just the processing of the grief. So I was up in the morning, and what the heck, I'm up at 5:30, might as well do my old enemas I used to do daily during a concentrated time when I was passing biofilm and remodulating my gut and parasites, and I can't believe the things that came out of me. So I decided to go ahead and do that, and it really helped my morning. Just felt lighter and like, wow, it didn't really take the grief away, but it did make it feel lighter. And then I decided to go body surf because I live across from the beach, and just body surf for a little while. And after the body surf, I came back and had another sort of a bowel movement after the enemas were all done. I do 3 in a sequence, a saltwater one, or what I call a decongester to clear the lower colon. We're not doing more than a quart. We don't do large clearing enemas in my practice because of the bowel wall, stretching it too much. But we're working with another system, and that's a whole other conversation. Look at my coffee enema video or ask for some of our papers on that. So a bowel movement came out, and whenever I have an aberrant bowel movement that's not a normal one, I just know. And so the gross thing is I usually have a chopstick or I fish it out of the toilet. So I fished the stuff out of the toilet, and I was like, holy shit, this is... Been doing parasite herbs for a week, leading this cleanse, decongesting and removing, the upper layers of slime that, here's your intestinal wall, there's all this villi and little hairs on the villi, and so mucus builds up on that, and that mucus starts to thicken and harden, and then we call that mucoid plaque or biofilm. And so sometimes when you pass something in a stool, you have to remember what you ate. So I was like, okay, I ate seaweed. It could look like that, but it wasn't the right color, so okay, it's not the seaweed. I eat greens and sprouts. Well, no, it's not quite that. I had some bone broth with chunks of fat and meat in it, which slows down the cleanse, which will be a whole other conversation. Tomorrow's video blog will be about speeding up and slowing down a cleanse. Actually, that's worth writing down. Speeding up and slowing down a cleanse is a great topic. So yeah, the bone broth kind of slows it down because it's cold weather, and so that's the cold weather piece about today is it's hard to cleanse when it's cold, and so the enema... Cold water I was body surfing in a wetsuit, and then the cold, and what the cold causes, my whole body kind of contracted, and I usually have to urinate after I'm in the cold ocean. So I urinated, and then this stuff came out, and it looks like little squids. They're about as long as a finger, and they look like a little spaghetti, but these were green, orange, and a little bit reddish even, and fairly long. And then when I fished them out, they kind of broke apart, and the photographs I sent to the cleansing people were... So passing that, right? Grief is part of letting go, and the parasite biofilm came out, and that's where all the stuff starts happening after that. But what's shocking to me was I haven't really done that deep of a cleanse, I didn't think, but come to think of it, then I'm like, well, I've been cleansing sort of emotionally and cleansing psychically. There's a lot of stuff that we're all shedding. So that's part of the enema goes against cold weather, because when you start depleting all of your nutrients out of your body, then that's where the bone broth came in. I was like, well, if I need some calories, I'm gonna do something that's easy to digest, right? To not slow down the detoxification that should be occurring during the cleanse. So bone broth was a good happy medium for me. And I had made a large pesto to add into the bone broth as a green garnish. Chopped parsley, green onion, and cilantro are kind of the three simples that you can choose from. But any green will work in there. Some sprouts is what we do. So I was using pesto as a garnish, and so I had a lovely bowl of that. But then a client had asked me, does bone broth slow down cleansing? And then that'll be tomorrow's conversation, is yes, it does, but the reasons why we can go into tomorrow. All caloric foods slow down cleansing. All of them. I don't care who you're talking to. They're all acidic by nature, and they all slow down bowel movements. Fat won't. If you just eat fat like ghee, like they do in Ayurveda, it'll kind of wash through and you'll get little slippery bowel movements, like things will just slide right through. But for the most part, there's variations here. Your caloric foods too, like beans tend to slow down the bowels, constipate them. Grains are variable. Root vegetables tend to be variable depending on whether they're raw or cooked or what type. Dairy carbs like lactose, dairy tends to constipate people for the most part. What other carbs we got? Fruit is a carb, and that's typically more laxative if they're sweet. Sour fruits will constipate. So a sour green apple will be more constipating than a really sweet red apple. And that's kind of what, and then sweeteners like honey or the other carbs. The sweeteners, kind of mixed bag, but I haven't seen too much correlation. Usually it's kind of tighten you up because you get the candida stirred up. But for me, if I ate too much sweet, I'd get a lot of bowel movements. So this other part about cravings and cleansing in the cold, so usually in the cold we're going to crave more warming foods, more salty foods, more rich foods, more fatty foods. It's just natural. And those are typically higher in sodium. Then you've got this other thing where you've got potassium-rich foods, which are your alkaline foods, your fruits and your vegetables. And potassium is a well-needed element for carbohydrate digestion. So what's interesting is, like fruit is very high in potassium, but it's also high in sugar. So you'll see like figs are high in potassium, high in sugar. Potatoes are high in potassium, but high in carbohydrate, not sugar, but long chains of glucose. You start to see these correlations. Tomatoes are high in potassium. And they're also, good sweet tomatoes, high in glucose and carbohydrate too. So cleansing in the cold involves, looking at what's my inherent vitality at, what's my body temperature. And so in my office, we have ways to check vitality. There's a lying down to standing up blood pressure check, body temperature, like your body temperature, Chinese pulses. And you can do any one of a few other things in the office. I might look into the eyes, look at the tongue, because there's ways to see if the eyes and the tongue are fatigued, but it's a little more subtle. So just with those little bit of tests right there, we can usually tell if you're waking up tired during a cleanse and you need to rest, and if you're dragging your feet all day like I am today after a number of nights of poor sleep, then it's time to lay down and rest is really what that's about, and honoring the midday break. So I'll be doing that a little bit after this. I think this is getting to be a long one. So the cleansing and the cold part and the duality involves hot and cold is the duality we're looking at here. Hot things tend to speed things up. Cold things tend to slow them down and contract them. So when it's cold and you're craving something that's filling, think, I'm going to do a liquid filling, and maybe I'll melt some butter in there, or maybe some olive oil or flax oil, or maybe I'll throw some chia seeds or ground flax seeds in this soup I'm doing. Maybe I'll cook up some root vegetables and puree it and add some warming spices. You can still stay on the cleansing path, but get those calories in a liquid form. I don't think smoothies and juices on a cold day are a good idea, but I'm looking out the window right here in Santa Cruz, and today's one of those like blissful January days where the rain's passed and it's like 65 degrees. Maybe it'll get to 70 today, and you could actually go to the beach in the middle of January, which is kind of absurd, but I hear it's 80 in LA, and they're about 6 hours south of us, so it's pretty crazy. So not a good time for raw food, not a good time for raw cold juices and raw food diet, except when the weather's a little better in the middle of the day. So that's kind of the gist of this talk, and I think we'll probably end up doing another one tomorrow, and I'll throw some more stuff in. So it's Craig Lane with video blog about cleansing, cravings, duality, and then tomorrow we'll have to go over the voluntary versus the involuntary, because I didn't get that in today. Thank you very much.